Hi everybody, Jo here again. Thanks for joining me today. I just thought I'd pop in and have a bit of a catch up with you. Haven't seen you for a few days, so I thought I'd just come in and see how you're doing. I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're having a good week. Nice to just spend a bit of time with you. And I say spend a bit of time. Actually, the design today isn't going to take very long at all. As you know, I like to play with colour, with watercolours, with ink. It's just something I like to do. And I was having a bit of a play today, and I came up with this. And it's actually a very, I will say, quick and simple, although I don't like to say that. It's a lovely design to do. Now, I quite agree, it won't be everybody's bag. Not everybody. I like the way it bleeds out of the lines for me, but I know there are some crafters who actually prefer almost painting inside the lines, and they don't like anything bleeding out, and that's fine. As I say, it won't be everybody's cup of tea, and I totally get that. So if it's not, well, do you know what? Just grab your brew and we'll have a catch up, and you just know it's not something you're going to try. I must admit, that's what I love about workshops, because you can try techniques and find out whether they're for you or not. I mean, in the craft world, we're so lucky. We have got so many products, we have got so many colours, so many different techniques we can use, that there's so much out there. Not everything will be your cup of tea. It's a bit like food, isn't it? We don't like everything. Well, I do, as long as it's got chocolate in it. Anyway, I must stop mentioning food. All I seem to talk about is biscuit, cake. Speaking of which, I hope you've got your cheeky biscuit while you're watching. What are you having today? I must admit, well, when I've recorded this, I'm off for my second cup of coffee. Carl's out today. He's had to go to Cambridge, and it was my first day taking both grandchildren, one to nursery and one to school. The oldest one, Elliot's just started school. So by the time I'd walked Eric this morning, walked over and got the boys up, because Adam and Danielle are both at work, and I'd taken Jensen to nursery, brought Elliot back here, given him his breakfast, fed Eric, and by the time I'd walked Elliot to school and back and then walked Eric, I'd actually done 8,500 steps, so I'm well on my way. I tell you, can't wait till I go and pick them both up later. Definitely going to nail my 10,000 today. So I just fancied doing something, really for me, just to play something I enjoy. So anyway, as I was saying, so after this, I'm treating myself to a second coffee and cheeky biscuit. So that's my excuse. I've got the steps in this morning, so I think I'm allowed. Almost feels naughty though, because am I allowed a second coffee? Well, it's my perk for today. So getting back, I knew I fancied doing some embossing and just adding a little bit of colour. So I looked through my stamps and I went for this stamp set. And it's an Aall and Create stamp set, and it's number 441, and it's Lotus clusters. It's by Bipasha, and obviously those of you that follow me will know I've used this an awful lot. I just find there's a lot I can do with this, and it's almost like a quirky floral, and it's quite modern. So again, I can use it in almost a traditional way, but also put a modern twist on it. And I think value for money, you've got 3 really good stamps here, and this little one, I love this. As you know, for just doing your extras, you can make a whole background out of that. It's great to decoupage as well, should you wish, because it's quite the easy shapes to cut out. This one, the one that we're going to use today, you could just decoupage one of these. Now, if you're into your colouring, I know a lot of you like your Copic markers. This will be beautiful to colour with those. I know a lot of you are excellent with your colouring with your markers. Again, it's not something I ventured down, but if you did your pencils, again, you could spend time actually colouring it with your pencils, and it would look beautiful. So today I fancied doing a DL. As you know, there's something about DL cards. I just find them very classy. So I'm going to use a piece of watercolour card, and it is, I know you like these measurements in inches, so it's 7 3/4 inches by, is it 3.5? Yes, 3.5 inches. And as I say, I'm using watercolour card. And what we're going to do first is, because I'm going to do gold embossing, I'm going to edge it with my gold Sharpie pen. And I'm thinking this would be a lovely design if you had a Christmas stamp. So I'm going to look and see if I can maybe find a, I'm bound to have a poinsettia that I could actually do with the gold embossing and the gold pen around. And I'm thinking this could be a lovely design for Christmas. I'm really into getting, I've got quite a few Christmas cards made already this year. So I want to be ahead and just made some lovely Christmas tags. So now again, I'm just pressing the card down, keeping my kitchen roll on, and then I don't get any dirty finger marks. So make sure you press the card down, and that way your line, it won't come on your card. And there we go, that's done to start off with. Now, again, use your acetate. So I know that by putting my acetate, if I wanted, originally I was going to put my stamped image at the side and actually stamp a sentiment here. And then I just thought, no, I prefer it in the middle. And I'm leaving it without a sentiment specifically so that if this is going to be one of those emergency cards, because I've got enough room should I wish to add a happy birthday or a get well soon, or, you know, it could be even for a new home or just a best wishes. So I'm going for the middle, but your acetate is so useful for that. And we're going to use a gold. I've just gone for, this is one of my old ones, just it's a Stampendous one. And this is just a detailed gold embossing powder. So I'm going to take the lid off. Now, because we're going to use a Versamark, a sticky ink pad, you could use a anti-static bag. But I've got to be honest, if I get any little bits of gold, I think that would go with my design. So I'm going for not using one. But you may want to use one. So just the sticky ink. And again, I always do tend to almost, don't press too hard. You don't want to sort of squidge it in. It's better to do lots of light tapping than a few sort of really pressed hard. There we go. That should have it. And then I'm just going to stamp this sort of in the middle-ish. And again, although it's your sticky ink, don't rush it. You still want that ink to get all the detail of this gorgeous stamp. There's a lot of detail here. So I'm just sort of pressing each little bit. That's the way it works for me. If you've got a certain technique, the way the stamping works for you, you know, you carry on and do that. All I can do is do this the way I do it. As I say, if you've got a better method and it works for you, you carry on with that. That's what's lovely about crafting together. There are so many, we think it's a bit like baking, isn't it? There are so many different ways of making a recipe and even putting your own twist on that recipe. Oh no, have I gone back to food again? I think I must be a bit food obsessed. Now remember, your roll and crate blocks are flexible and nice and quick. Obviously my Versamark ink pad isn't exactly clean, but it doesn't matter. Let's tap that off. Now I always say it's a bit like it, give it a pat on the bottom to get any extra off. And then there's a little bit here, so I just have a spare paintbrush and I'm just going to get rid of that. But I think that's fine, a bit there. Like I say, I'm not worried. So let's put this back in. I think embossing was one of the first techniques I ever learnt. I thought it was like magic. And I must admit, I still love it. I still think it's really clever. And again, being a crafter, I want to tap. I want to get all that embossing powder back in. Must have had this for years. Just lasts forever, doesn't it? So we're just going to heat that. So do excuse the noise. And again, just going to switch my heat tool on. And just let it heat up. Check it's nice and hot before you start. And then start in one area, look. slowly move your heat tool around. As each bit melts, you just move it round. And then hold it up to the light to check you've got. There's a bit there I think we've missed. Give that an extra little, yeah. And then, as I say, just tilt it in the light just to check you've got every bit, which we have. Like I say, for me, it was one of the first things I ever learned, and it still gets me. I still think, oh. And I'm going to come in with these watercolour paints that I've got. Now, again, it just happens, these are from Altenew, and it just happens that I bought these a while ago, and I'm really trying to make an effort to use them. Oh, just knocked my lamp. Do you know, I keep doing that. Like I say, one day you'll get a professional on here instead of me. And all I'm going to do is give them a bit of a spritz. Now, you could use ink for this. You could use your Inktense pencils. As I say, you colour however you want. I just, after buying this product, I'm making sure that I use it. I just don't want to sort of have a product and not use it. I think we can all be guilty of that sometimes, can't we? I mean, I think things like this are a considered purchase, but that's the thing. You want to make sure you use them. Now, I'm just going to mix a light blue in my palette here. And I'm just going to start, and I'm adding a little bit of colour, just a light blue, to the edge of these flowers. Now, I'm not being very careful. As I say, this is just my interpretation of a technique. If you're the sort of person and you want to spend time actually painting these flowers, that's fine. Got to be honest, I could quite fancy doing that myself. And I'm just adding the light blue just on the outside, just on the edges of these, and then I'm going to come in with a darker blue. And don't worry, I know you're looking at me thinking, Jo Rice, you've lost it here, that is a dog's dinner. Speaking of which, Eric is asleep under my desk, so once again, if you hear snoring, it is not me. And then what I'm going to do is just bring in some green into the middle there. And I'm just going to take, I need to check you can see this. I'm just going to take my water spritzer and I'm going to spritz it. Now again, there may be people that just really don't want to do this, which is fine. Sometimes I just like to do something a bit different. Now, look at that. But what I found was if I blot it, and I know you could say that's a waste, you're getting rid of some colour, but I like that basic colour it's given me. And what I can do then is come in with more of the blue. And I love that paleness I've got. And I'm just going to start adding a little bit more. And it's almost now gone to a wet on wet technique. And I love the way it's come outside. But the embossing will always be there, so you'll always have that integrity of the embossing. And the beauty of this is you can do it 2 or 3 times and you'll never get the same thing. And if you want more water, you just spritz more water. Again, we're using watercolour card, so you can spritz as much water as you want. If you actually want to come in and add a little bit of deeper colour, I love it when you can just add a real almost, I'm just dabbing and letting the water flow. I want some darker colour just to add a bit of contrast. So I want some darker colour in this one, but I want it to just flow, that wet on wet. Now, again, you could dry it with your heat tool, but just be aware you've got some embossing there. Now, for me, I want a bit of colour here. I want it to run. So I'm just going to spritz that, and I want some over here. I just want that colour to almost run a bit more. So you can help it along a bit. That's run, that's nice. And then what I'm going to do is just get and add a few little, just going to paint that as well. I like that nice little circle there, and that box there. And what I'm going to do is I just want to add a bit of green as well. So I'm going to go to the green, just add some splats of the green. It's a good day to be splatting. I've put a white top on. And I've got a bit of a stalk there, so that'll be green. We'll add some green there. Well, that's nice. That's moved in the water. Go back in with that. Now, the beauty of this is when it's dry, you can actually go in and add more detail. So what I would do is let this dry. So I'll just bring my heat tool in a tiny, see if I can get it to dry a little. Again, I don't want to mop it too much, but what I would do is leave this to dry and then come in with my darker blue. And I've gone for a finer brush now. And just at the base, as I say, I would let it dry, but just at the base where I really want some nice deep, and almost put the detail back in. It's a bit wet at the minute. But on the one I've got, what I did was just, and as I say, I just found this such a lovely technique to play around with. And because you've got watercolour card, it's so good because the watercolour card will just take the water. And again, this area here, what I would do is let that dry. Obviously, I've blotted it just to show you. And then I would come in with more colour and actually put the detail back in. And it's almost building those layers up. And it just gives you such a lovely effect. Well, I think it does. As I say, I love that almost like that sharpness of the gold against almost like that freeness of the paints, because they just move in that water. And for me, it's lovely to do something. It's almost quite refreshing to do something that is quite free. I think we spend a lot of time being specific. I know a lot of the designs I do have sort of got specific painting in and specific colours, and whereas this, I feel I'm almost allowed to be free and just splat, but the integrity, that embossing will stay there. And I love this bit, how when it starts to dry, you'll be amazed. And honestly, have a go at this. Even if it's not something you would do, maybe just have a go and see. And I just love spending time just going in. And I love the way these colours look. It's almost it's gone quite purpley there. And we've not added a purple. And as the colours dry, you get the most gorgeous mixes. Mixes, is that a word? Mixtures, sorry, mixtures of colours. And it almost looks a bit, what's the word? Not eggshell. Almost like that blue sparkle that you get. Almost sort of like an opal. And as I say, I could quite happily spend ages doing this. And I'm definitely going to see, I'm sure I might, I'm sure I've got a poinsettia, and I'm thinking in reds with the gold for Christmas. For me, that would make a lovely design. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll put my paints to one side, just so that I can move things around to show you. And if I just mop this up, because otherwise I will literally lose myself and just spend ages as it is drying, adding more and more detail to it. Now, all I did on my finished design, if I bring the finished design in, is on my card blank, I've added a few little splats of paint, just so that it all looks that it's coordinated. But if I bring the two together, obviously this one is still very wet. But I want it to dry naturally. I really don't want to because I think as it's drying, look, I love this effect. So really that's all I was going to show you today. But I do hope you have a go. Maybe have a look at your stamps. Have you got a stamp that maybe you've not used before that actually will be perfect for this technique? I'd love to know. And I'd love to know if it's something you like. Again, we're all different. I mean, imagine a book, a watercolour book with this, with maybe some script about the different plants. I mean, again, that would look beautiful. I think this would look lovely in a frame. I've got to be honest. Anyway, I need to carry on just playing with this and adding a little bit, as it dries, a little bit darkness in there, and I think it's going to look stunning. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for your support on here and the lovely emails I get. It's so kind of you to email me. Honestly, I really do appreciate it. And for those of you in Australia who've come out of lockdown, I bet you are so thrilled. So, love and hugs to everybody. You take care. Bye for now.